What made you want to do the officer route versus, I know, because majority are enlisted, so what made you want to do
Dude,
that?
I had looked at doing SFAS.
Okay.
As an 18 extra contract straight off the street in 2016, the fall of 2016. And I had gone on at the time I was running a nonprofit and we raised and trained service dogs for veterans. And so I had a lot of exposure to the communities. And I went on a trip to essentially go, Mike Glover's his name. He's a former CAG guy. We were training his dog, his service dog, Pearl. And I took her out there to like see him, and he was in Tahoe, and it was some things I did, some things they did. I just didn't have a great interaction with the guys that were, group guys that were there. I didn't love the way they meshed from the different, fifth group, first group, third group, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And I kind of like pulled back on it. It was the end of what I didn't know at the time. And this will matter, and people understand this that are in, but we were at the end of the fiscal year. And so they didn't have any allocations for 18 X-rays. So I couldn't do it right away. And I would have signed the day I walked in. So they're trying to push an option 40 on me. And I knew exactly what I want to do if I was going to do it. But I'm really glad they didn't have any 18 X-ray contracts, because I would have signed without, having gone on that trip and all that.
Yeah.
Then I took a big step back and was like, I guess I'm not going to do it, because I wanted to be a part of a specific community. And then I did an event for Sundance, and it was like around like veteran, issues and things like that. And there were some things that came of that with literally like talking to the VP of like Black Rifle at the time. And okay. I didn't intentionally involve them in that event, because I just didn't, as a civilian, didn't appreciate like the things that they were like putting out, marketing, how they were marketing the veteran community, which I still, very strongly about, but I have different thoughts on it now because I've gone through the thing.
Is it just like because I know like they can kind of be very brovet-ish, like
the brovet thing. I wasn't a big fan of the brovet thing, like at the get-go, and more so because the guys that I had become close with, like through the nonprofit, they were tier 1, tier 2 operators. They were the best of the best, and then they were like the grunts. Yeah, and it was every spectrum of human being that comes, goes in, does the thing, comes out. And my interpretation of those individuals that were, the most successful were the ones that were doing it in an honorable and quiet way. And they weren't necessarily just being the 22-year-old Lance Corporal in the civilian world. That's fine. But the reality of life is like, you have to develop past that to a certain point in order to truly navigate this space. And we don't have we should not have any expectation that like the civilian world should just adopt all the things in what we are, right? It's beautiful, and there's a time for it, and it's great. And some things have to be rounded off, and your edges have to be, things have to be smoothed out, and you have to act a certain way, generally speaking. But if anybody's an example of an individual that doesn't like fit the mold of society, it's me. So I'm all about that shit, but like to a point where I think it's destructive, it's not actually healthy. Yeah. Right. And I think what they've portrayed, or what they really pushed early on, for the majority of individuals that were getting out and the demographic that it targeted, it wasn't what they should be aligning with to move forward in their life in the civilian world. Because being a Lance Corporal in the civilian world is not going to get you very far. Right? Yeah. That's the reality of it.
A slight segue, but like, so a lot of people talk about like there's like almost a culture shock when they, just from the whole process of going from poolee to, in boot camp, and then when they finally hit the fleet. But being an officer, though, I know the stereotype is always they hype up, being a professional, being a leader and stuff like that. But did that change, or what was, like when you hit the fleet as an officer, did that whole, getting a little tongue-tied here, but like was there a culture shock? Was there anything that changed about
what is it, like your responsibility and that kind of thing? Yeah. Dude, OCS is so fucking gay. It's not expecting that. Oh, it's so gay. Dude, I honestly, that there was one point where I considered not commissioning because I looked across the table and I was like, is this the quality, right? And yeah, I think that kid ended up dropping, I don't know. And it's not like I was a stud at OCS. It was just super gay. Yeah. And like TBS was like its own thing, and TBS is the best thing the Marine Corps does, in my opinion, because it trains every single officer on how to be at least a quote unquote provisional rifle platoon commander, which in the Marine Corps is super important because every supporting and establishment needs to at least understand generally what we do, because what we do, the core of what we do is the infantry. Yeah. But yeah, when you get to the fleet, dude, you definitely like, there's a bit of it, maybe like imposter syndrome. I don't feel like or think I had that. I think I understood and knew the weight of like assuming the role that we had. But I'll be honest, like IOC 110% prepares you to assume that role, and part of it is just who you are as a human, right? If IOC, the only way IOC doesn't prepare you for that role is if you're just not actually capable of that role, and you shouldn't have made it through the fucking course anyways. Yeah.
I see. In what ways was OCS? Because I know people have like their own versions of boot camp stories, but what makes OCS gay?
I don't know. It was just fucking stupid. I don't know. It was, dude. I didn't.
Like, was it like the like unnecessary drill? Was it like just the people running it?
I went to OCS with like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know we needed to know like any Marine Corps history. I didn't know we needed to know how to drill. Like I thought we were like, this is like grown up camp, right? Because I was 2 years removed from undergrad. Like I wasn't expecting to go OCS. And like, I mean, it was all the right things, but like, I was just like, oh, this is actually fucking retarded, but it was sick. I mean, I needed it. So, yeah, dude, it was stupid. Yeah. Once you understand the game, you're like, okay. And then the guy that can't figure it out, you're just like, all right, you know, the standard too. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it's no secret. The standard is, I mean, I wish it was harder for sure to a degree. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the standard has obviously flexed, and that's not a secret. Good, bad, or otherwise, let the data tell.
Yeah.
But it also has to shift at times.
No, of course.
It's necessary, so.
Yeah. Now, not to shift to like big ticket stuff, but I know everybody, like, because it seems like the further in time we go, everybody always says that like they had it harder than the newer generations. But do you still think the Marine Corps military still is, like, do you still think it's competent or as tough as can be?
I mean, I can only really truly speak for the Marine Corps. I think the core of the Marine Corps is like, I think we're kind of like the last holdout.
Yeah.
I think. Things evolve, times are different. We need to evolve. That doesn't mean it needs to get like easier or harder. We need to evolve with the time to make sure we're training to the standard necessary to actually still be the best, and whatever that looks like. So does that mean like we should be heavier or not heavier weight, or longer or shorter hikes, or faster or slower runs? I don't fucking know. Whatever it is, it just needs to keep with the times, and we need to evolve at the pace the world's moving.
Yeah, no, of course.
So let that be the frame that we look at that through, you know, the lens that we look at that problem through.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, don't be afraid of change, you know, even if it's necessary.
You have to evolve. But, I mean, don't evolve through the lens of DEI. Evolve through the lens of, like, how do we stay really fucking lethal?
Yeah.
In whatever capacity that is, right? Because look at what's going on in Ukraine and in Russia and the FPV drones. And there's so much there, dude. There's so much there. And it's wild and it's crazy. And it could be scary, I guess, but it's definitely intimidating.
Oh yeah, right? I could rant on the drone warfare thing for like the drone warfare stuff's really scary.
To do with it. we started ITX, and I believe that was close to or coincided with when like they fielded Switchblade drones in Ukraine. I think I might be wrong. I don't know. My timings are way fucked up. It was like a year or two later. But nonetheless, I thought back to ITX and was like, holy fuck, if the enemy had Switchblade drones, there's no way I'm going to be mounted in anything.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to piggyback off a little bit because I remember you sharing this story, but the JLTV with the NJP me. Yeah.
We can hit that. Oh, yeah, from our first casting.
Yeah. Can you remind me that?
I don't know, fucking... all the Marines decided they wanted to like label their turrets, the gunners did. And I was like, okay. And I grabbed Staff Sergeant Godfrey, and if he has any version other than this, I would love to hear it. But I was like, hey, like, this is your lane. I think it's hilarious. I certainly don't believe it'll ever get signed off on, but if you're cool with running it, you have to own it. He was like, yeah, it's probably not good, but let's let them see how far we'll take it. I'm like, because that's kind of one of those things you have to like push to see how far you can get away with certain stuff just for morale and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fucking hilarious, but Sergeant Major Dreyer didn't, and I don't think the battalion commander did, and that was that. So
yeah, can't expect too much out of them.
I didn't give two fucks anyways when they came up to me and didn't like it, because I knew ITX was my last go around, and I didn't fuck them anyways. So
yeah, you were kind of in that.
I didn't fuck with that command. Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Being a platoon CO, though, it's got to be interesting because, like, obviously, you know, you guys are expected to like hammer down on like getting the job done, but at the same token, I imagine letting the boys be boys is that's also on you, and letting that be a huge part of your job.
Dude, the best part of the job was letting the guys letting the dogs eat, like letting the guys off the leash and let them go do their fucking thing was the best part of the job.
Yeah,
and the only way to for them to be as good as they possibly could be at that. And I learned this at IOC. It was like they walk us to the reds of like every munition that we will generally have to understand and know that. Aside from like big bombs, right? Anything from the air. And I just carried that mentality into like being a platoon commander, where it was like, we have to push these guys to the edge in every way that it makes sense, but also allow them to, and like give them enough rope to like hang themselves, but don't let them to a degree. Right. And so that was fun, but that was the fun part. But I think the thing you have to understand as a platoon commander is like, you know, that if you're going to let your guys go to that edge, like there might be hell to pay, and you have to be comfortable with paying that hell, but you also have to train them to a point where you're comfortable with letting them push the limit on a certain thing. Yeah. Right. That was the best part, dude. Letting the guys eat, like just having nothing to have to say. The best part. But the best part.
Yeah. You might be able to testify to this, but when I was talking with Colonel Sieverts, he said that the difference between his time as an officer versus enlisted, he said enlisted was more fun, but officer was more rewarding. And I feel like from what you were saying, that that echoes a little bit.
Yeah, I mean...
And he meant more rewarding in like terms like that.
Yeah, that could definitely, that probably defines it for sure. I mean, we talked about this. The times I was most proud or the times that I was most fulfilled in the Marine Corps was watching guys get meritoriously promoted or promoted to a rank that they've really been working towards. Yeah. Like seeing the guys win, that was like the biggest win, right? Seeing the guys move on with their lives, if they, got out and you were still in, like that was huge. Like knowing that like you had a positive impact on them, or meritorious was huge. Meritorious was so cool because we weren't giving fucking meritorious to bullshit. It just wasn't going to happen. So the guys that got it, they earned every bit of it. And they get it in pay, and they get it in their new billet, and they're ready for it. And right, when you're in a unit, or a lot of units these days, it's like they don't let you fill a role if you don't have the rank to fill it. Yeah. It's like, dude, you have to keep progressing these guys, and it was awesome to be able to progress them at their pace.
No, absolutely.
One of the few opportunities you get to do that. So
now the big stereotype, and I asked this to Major Geiger, and I'm curious to hear what you got to say, but the stereotype is like officers tend to be more of like the prep rally, kind of like, the rich kid status, whereas like enlisted are like kind of like the gangsters, like running around a little bit.
Yeah. We've gone to college.
Yeah. Now,
which doesn't mean a whole lot anymore.
No, of course. I don't believe that to be true after, especially after talking with the officers since I've been out and all that, but like, what would you have to say to that stereotype?
That stereotype needs to remain, right? Like you need to see like an officer as like more professional, and like generally like the enlisted Marines need to view themselves as the savages. Yeah. But they should, absolutely 110%. Okay. Not really, I don't know, gangster, but like savages. Yeah. Yeah. But like, I think like maybe the officers are the gangsters, like the professional gangsters. Okay. And then they're just, the Marines are savages. I don't know.
I like that.
Do we have to do a lot of more gangster shit? Yeah. Behind the scenes bullshit, blah, blah, blah. I'm joking about like what gangster and not gangster is, but.
Well, you're not like in the streets though, doing the drug trade, doing the drive-bys,
If we're good, we are. If we're good, like we have those relationships with the people that we need to get shit done when you can't get it done the way that the fucking battalion does it. No, of course. We're good. Yeah. But you guys are gangsters in that formality, and that you guys have those relationships with those other, shop leads on the enlisted side to get shit done. That's huge for young guys. They definitely need to know that. Have good relationships with the S shops. Yeah.
Now being with and this doesn't have to be like comedic per se, but like what did you notice was just the biggest difference from observing the enlisted and then like actually being with officers? Like what would you say is the biggest difference between the two ranks?
Definitely like a level of intelligence, like an average level of intelligence is obviously higher, generally speaking. So you're having completely different conversations. Yeah. A little like inevitably more maturity because they're a little bit older. That's not across the board. If you're with your peers and their officers, you can have a lot more fun. If you're with like different ranks, depending on like within like your MOS, it's a lot of times it can be rigid depending on what it is. Yeah. When you're with the guys, like, dude, it's just being dudes. It's just the guys being guys, which is like, that's also a fun part. It's like going back to college to a degree. Mm-hmm. Right. But you can go down and you're just kicking it. You're just hanging out. You're just shooting the shit. It's just like whatever dumb bullshit. There's nothing there. When you want to be entertained, you go hang out with the Marines. Yeah. When you want to be bored, like go hang out with your officer friends,
Which is interesting. Cause like, I remember from our first take, and I see how this makes sense, but the way you said it was like officer, or how did the quote go? It was like officers are just like enlisted. We just have a little more money to play with.
Something like that. Out in town for sure. Not everyone, but yeah, dude, if you're single, Well, here's the thing. If you're single and you're an infantry officer and you're in the Marine Corps, maybe in the Army too, I don't know. It should probably apply. But like, and you're not like going out and fucking off and having a good time. I mean, you're probably weird. You're definitely weird.
Yeah.
But like, it's probably the better thing to do. But no, we're the same exact thing. If we're fucking young, dumb, and single, we're young, dumb, and single with money, and we're just a little bit smarter. Doesn't mean we don't do all the same dumb shit when we're fucking drunk, but
yeah.
Same dumb shit.
Now that I know that the one picture